Coming to you from Twin Town Sports Central. Get ready. It's Grovcast. Eric Grover here, Wahpeton Daily News. And I can play the song myself, you know, on medium difficulty. Yep, there is certainly a lot to talk about this week. So let's get started, shall we? Let's start with high school football, where the name of the game is the running offense. Both teams are featuring multiple runners that can get it done, and it's impressive to watch right now. Wahpeton obviously has its trio of Zane, Medhog, Brocklingen, and Schuyler Grippentrog, and on the Breckenridge side, they've got a trio as well. They're going with Cole Prowse, Greg Erlinson, Cass Edwards. These guys are getting it done right now, and it's a luxury. When you got numerous threats that can take it to the house, it's hard to game plan that. It's hard to adjust, and right now it's resulting in wins. I mean, Wahpeton is still at the top of the charts, the number one team in North Dakota. Keep it up, guys. Breckenridge is right behind them, and they'd be undefeated right now probably if they hadn't played Wahpeton in its first game. So the sky's the limit for both of these teams, and Breckenridge is just going to get even better. Wahpeton is very good right now. Breckenridge is good, getting even better as more of these players return from absence. Well, enough high school football. Let's move on. Ndscs Volleyball is leading the charge of the women's fall circuit right now, playing real well at 10-2, and they just keep on rolling. It's impressive. Every year it's, well, we're going to lose this player, but we're bringing in these players. And it's been some new leaders on the floor. Of course, there's some old faces like a Heather Kakis, who's always a dangerous outside hitter. But new players like Katie Wangberg and Shalina Irwin and Kaylee Pender, all these players are committing to their roles on the floor and getting maximum results right now. So that's excellent to see. The girls are really benefiting from a lot of homegrown talent. We got players from Wahpeton, players from Breckenridge, players from all over the surrounding area, and it's great to see some fans in the stands. NDSCS is in action Wednesday night, again, coming up in just a few hours here. They'll be looking to go 11-2. Breckenridge Volleyball's playing real well, led by Sierra Steckler, Amber Vold. They're way above 500 right now, and they're getting it done. Hopefully they can keep it up. And Wahpeton earned a win last week. Nice to see them break the ice. They have some talent, but I think the biggest question mark is going to be, can they make it up for their lack of size on the floor? There's no secret. You need to be tall to be a dominant volleyball player, and they don't have that really tall player to hold down the center of the floor. It's going to take a lot of teamwork and a little bit of endurance. So hopefully they can keep it up. And NDSCS has its homecoming game on Saturday. They're reeling right now. 2-game loss, losing streak. No one wants to see that. It's time for them to figure it out. Otherwise, you can't look at 1-3 right now. You can't start your season 1-3 with the hopes of making it to the playoffs. So this is a must-win game, Saturday at 1 p.m. Get out there and support the Wildcats. Moving right along on the Grovecast, we got the man sitting to my left, and he is the man, the myth, and the legend. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Landon Kafka of the News Monitor. How are you doing today, man?
Pretty good. Glad to be here.
Welcome back. And we got a lot to talk about. How should we begin?
Well, I guess we can start out with week 2 of the NFL.
And it was a busy week indeed. We watched some of these NFL games together, and a tough one for your beloved Vikings.
Yep, the Vikings in the second half. And they're only going to play 8 games this season. So it's going to be a rough year.
Yeah, well, hey, how about that first half at least? That after last week's game against San Diego, where they finished so poorly, you had to think that the way that they played in the first half You had to feel optimistic about it, didn't you?
No.
Yeah, well, come on, give me a break here. I'm trying to make you feel better.
I don't think any Vikings fan feels optimistic.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, you have to be optimistic if you're a Detroit Lions fan. That's for sure.
If you are a Lions fan, things are looking up. I mean, tough division, but see what happens.
Yeah, well, I guess Kansas City doesn't seem to be much of a measuring stick this year. And thanks, Jamal Charles, for snapping your ACL. You just totally ruined my fantasy league this year.
Yeah, the Lions will be taking on the Vikings next week, so we'll see what happens there. Once again, not optimistic. At Minnesota, so, maybe there's a chance.
So let's talk about some of the other teams and performers from Week 2. And I know you might have been unhappy about the Vikings, but you definitely ate well.
I did indeed. Your Green Bay Packers were able to pull out a victory against Steak Newton and the Carolina Panthers, but now Steak Newton is Steak Newton because he threw for over 400 yards, and Grover had to buy me a steak.
Yeah, and I did. And you had to order the most expensive one on the menu, didn't you?
I did not order the most expensive one on the menu.
He's lying.
I'm a very considerate free steak eater.
Well, who else looked good to you in Week 2? I definitely thought that the Saints would have a hiccup coming off the game with the Pack, but they played well against a good Bears defense.
They did indeed. Home game, so you can't really fault the Bears for not going into New Orleans and winning a game there, but the Saints, they look pretty tough this year.
Yeah, and how about Atlanta holding it down at home, just like I said they would?
Yep, I lost on that one. The Philadelphia still looked good. Vic went out in the second half, and Mike Kafka came in, namesake, because Vince Young's still out, but they couldn't hold it on.
Let's look ahead to Week 3. What game on the schedule is standing out to you?
I think the first game I see that stands out to me is actually the New England at Buffalo, which will be a good measuring stick for a Buffalo team that's looked pretty good this year. Now,
Buffalo is a real interesting case. They've been arguably the worst NFL team of the last 3 years, besides maybe the Lions. And where are all these points coming from? I mean, Fitzpatrick is playing out of his mind right now.
Fitzpatrick is playing out of his mind, and he has a giant noggin, so he has to play really hard to play out of his mind. Also went to Harvard, so, he's doing well. He's making the plays and making Buffalo look good right now.
He's got a light bulb-shaped helmet. Okay, the game that I really like is Green Bay at Chicago, and I guess that's kind of an easy one for me. It's in Soldier Field, and the Packers are reeling. They got a lot of injured players in the secondary despite being 2-0, and that's a game where if Jay Cutler decides to show up, he could throw for 350 and make this a game.
Yeah, Nick Collins going off for a year last week. That'll be tough for Green Bay to get past.
No, I don't like that at all.
But Jay Cutler, he is not looking good. The Chicago offensive line is looking even worse than Jay Cutler. They need to get things together there.
We got the Twins game on in the background, and this game is just a microcosm of the season for the Twins. Had an early lead, and here they are giving up a run in the 9th inning. It's been the relief pitching that's really been the disaster for Minnesota this year, hasn't it?
Well, you can't really have good relief pitching if you don't have any leads going into the last 3 innings of the game. I think the huge thing this year for the Twins has been the injuries. AAA Rochester has played for most of the season, and it looks like Justin Morneau might be out, maybe career-ending with his concussion problems.
How far has he fallen? I mean, we're talking about, what was that, 2007 AL MVP?
Yeah, just a few years ago he was the MVP, and now he's got the concussion problems and can't seem to make it back.
Where do the Twins go from here? I mean, you got a cornerstone in Mauer. I mean, he had an injury-shortened year, and I know that fans might not be as happy with him as they could be, but he still performed well when he was in the lineup. I mean, look at his numbers, 287, and a .360 on-base percentage. You can't ask for any more than that, can you?
Well, you can. When he was defending batting champion for the last couple of years, that's why he got paid a bunch of money to stay in Minnesota. I think he took a big step forward in being willing to move over to first base to hopefully prolong his career. There's a lot of good, young Minnesota Twins. They always have a good farm system. Those guys are getting a lot of good experience this year, and hopefully next year they'll be able to bring it together.
Kadar's probably been the best player for the Twins all season long. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, he was the only All-Star. He's leading the Twins in almost every offensive statistical category. And, yeah, he's been the most consistent, and that's probably just because he's one of the only, star players for the Twins that hasn't had an injury this year.
Revere is one of those rare players where he's a standout player, but his offensive numbers don't really pop at you. He's more of a defensive guy.
He's learning how to hit Major League pitching, I think, and, that's why this experience this year is good. In the future, he, will be a good piece to have in the top of that lineup. They have that speed on base all the time, and if he learns, how to see Major League pitching, he'll get more walks. That on-base percentage will increase, and hopefully he'll be, serviceable at the plate. A guy that's taken a huge step forward, Danny Valencia, just last year he had a really good rookie year, and he's a young player too that seems to just get better the more pitches he sees.
I don't see how the Twins rebound from this next year. I mean, they were supposed to win the division this year, ended up as the second worst team in baseball. Well, hey, there's plenty of room on that Brewers bandwagon for you.
Yeah,
if you want to join.
Yeah, I think if tonight is any indication, I actually watched the WNBA Minnesota Lynx move on to the Western Conference Finals rather than the Twins game. At least Minnesota has one franchise that, can make the playoffs.
Here we go, Lynx. Okay, boys and girls. That'll do it for another Grovcast. I'd like to thank my guest, Landon Kafka of the News Monitor. You're still here, aren't you?
Yeah. Steak Newton.
Steak Newton all day long. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll catch you again next week on the Grovecast.